Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Siddhar, Shri Swasaranora, Panchavinda. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar, Shiva Sari Gora Bhaktavinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare
Tata Shri Srimad A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnu Pada Paramahamsa Parva Jakacharya Ashokar Shanta Shri Srimad Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai. Anantagoti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki. Namacharya Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shama Kund Radha Kund Ki Gopidan Ki Jai. Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Mathura Dham Ki Jai. Navadvip Dham Ki Jai. Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai. Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Tulasi Devi Ki Jai. Yamuna Mai Ki Jai. Ganga Mai Ki Jai. Samavata Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru Gauranga.
Namaste Narasimhaya.
Namaste
Jai Jagadish.
Hare Jaya Radha Madhava Punjabi Hare Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashoda Nandana Bhaja Jana Ranjana Yashoda Nandana Bhaja Jana Ranjana Yamunatira Bhanachari Yamunatira Bhanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Punjabi Hari Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashodan Nandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashodan Nandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Punjabi Hari Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashoda Nandana Vrajajana Ranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhattade Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Tinamine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gaudavani Prasharne Nirvishesha Shunyavad Paschayada Satarne. Hello, dear devotees. So I was wondering if you guys want to. Yesterday we read text 19 from chapter 7, and we read 11 verses through to the end of the chapter. And then we came back to verse 19 and read the purport. So without any speculation here, typically we start on the next chapter after the 11 verses. So we can do that and do the same format, or we can just try to go through the purports of the verses we read yesterday. And if anyone has questions or wants to further increase with a particular comment or statement or point something out they like, they can do that. But we can just, I'll leave it up to you guys. What do you guys want to do? What about it? Okay, so did you hear the two options? We either read the purports, just read them through, and then we can stop at text 30 and like have a little bit more of a discussion. Or we can start with the next chapter, 8:1, and read 11 verses and go back to the first verse like we did. Do that. Okay. All right, chapter 8, Attaining the Supreme, text 1. We'll read the Sanskrit together. Arjuna Uvacha. Oh, sorry. Kim tad brahma kim adhyatmam kim karma purushotama. Everyone. Abhibhutam cha kun praktam adi daivam kim uchate. We can read English together as well. Arjuna inquired, O my Lord, O Supreme Person, what is Brahman? What is the self? What are fruitive activities? What is the material manifestation? And what are the demigods? Please explain this to me. Text 2. Adhyagya katam kotra dehe smim madhusadana prayana kalecha katam yeyo si niyatamapihi. How does this Lord of Sacrifice live in the body? And in which part does he live, O Madhusudana? And how can those engaged in devotional service know you at the time of death? Text 3. The Supreme Lord, Sri Bhagavan Uvacha Aksharam Brahma Paramam Swabhavo Dhyatmam Uchate Buddha Bhavod Bhavakaro Visarga Karma Samjitaha. The Supreme Lord said, the indestructible, transcendental, living entity is called Brahman, and his eternal nature is called the Self. Action pertaining to the development of these material bodies is called karma, or fruitive activities. Text 4. Adibhuttam saro bhava purushashchadi daivatam adiyagyoham evatra dehe deha pritambara. Physical nature is known to be endlessly mutable. The universe is the cosmic form of the Supreme Lord, and I am that Lord represented as the Supersoul, dwelling in the heart of every embodied being. Muktakale chamam eva smaram kalevaram ya prayati samar bhavam yati nasti atra samsayaha. And whoever at the time of death quits his body, remembering me alone, at once attains my nature. Of this there is no doubt. Yam yam vapi smaram bhavam tvajati ante kalevaram tam tam evaiti konteya sadatar bhava bhavitaha. Whatever state of being one remembers when he quits his body, that state he will attain without fail. Tashmat sarveshu kaileshu mamanusmara yuddhacha maya pita mano putir mame vaisyasi asamsaya. Therefore, Arjuna, you should always think of me in the form of Krishna and at the same time carry out your prescribed duty of fighting. With your activities dedicated to me and your mind and intelligence fixed on me, you will attain me without doubt. Avyasa yoga yuktena chetasaya nanya paramam purusham divyam yati patanu chintayam. He who meditates on the Supreme Personality of Godhead, his mind constantly engaged in remembering me, undeviated from the path, he, O Bhakta Arjuna, is sure to reach me. Kavam Puranam Anusasitaram Anu Aniyamsam Kavim Puranam Anusasitaram Anu Aniyamsam Anusmaridya Sarvasya Dataram Achintya Rupam Aditya Varnam Tamasa Parastat. One should meditate upon the Supreme Person as the one who knows everything, as he who is the oldest, who is the controller, who is smaller than the smallest, who is the maintainer of everything, and is beyond all material conception, who is inconceivable and who is always a person. He is luminous like the sun, and being transcendental is beyond this material nature. Oh, very nice. Prayana kale manasa prayana kale manasa chalena bhaktya yukto yoga balena chaiva Bhurvamadhyat pranam avesha samyam satam param purusham upaiti tveyam. One who at the time of death fixes his life air between the eyebrows and in full devotion engages himself in remembering the Supreme Lord will certainly attain to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Last one. Yad aksaram veda viddo vadanti visanti yad yatayo vitaragaha yad ichanto pramachayam karanti tate padam sangrahena pralakshe. Persons learned in the Vedas who utter Ankara and who are great sages in the renounced order enter into Brahman. Desiring such perfection, one practices the celibacy. I shall now explain to you this process by which one may attain salvation. Thank you for reading. So we'll go back to text 1 here. We'll take turns reading. Arjuna Uvacha Kim ta Brahma Kim Adiyat Kim tad Brahma Kim Adyatman Kim Karma Purushottama Adi Buddham Cha Kim Proktam Adi Daivam Kim Uchate. Would someone like to read? Oh, sorry. You want to try reading the Sanskrit? Arjuna Uvacha Kim tad Brahma Kim Adyatma Kim Karma Purushottama Adi Buddham Cha Kim Proktam Adi Daivam Kim Uchate. Arjuna Uvacha Kim tad Brahma Kim Adyatmam Kim Karma Purushottama Adi Buddham Cha Kim Proktam Adi Daivam Kim Uchate. Arjuna Uvacha Kim tad Brahma Kim Adyatmam Kim Karma Purushottama Adi Buddham Cha Kim Proktam Adi Daivam Kim Uchate. Arjuna Uvacha Kim tad Brahma Kim Adhyatma Kim Karma Purushottama Adi Buddham Cha Kim Proktam Uchate. Adidaivam kim uchate. Very nice reading. So, Bhakti Joseph, yes, you can read the translation. Mm-hmm. So let's ask these questions together. Arjuna inquired. Repeat after me. Arjuna inquired. O my Lord, O Supreme Person, what is Brahman? What is the self? What are fruitive activities? What is this material manifestation? And what are the demigods? Please explain this to me. Wonderful. Okay, purport. In this chapter, Lord Krishna answers these different questions of Arjuna, beginning with, what is Brahman? The Lord also explains karma, fruitive activities, devotional service, and yoga principles, and devotional service in its pure form. The Srimad Bhagavatam explains that the supreme absolute truth is known as Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. In addition, the living entity, individual soul, is also called Brahman. Arjuna also inquires about Atma, which refers to body, soul, and mind. According to the Vedic dictionary, Atma refers to the mind, soul, body, and senses also. Arjuna has addressed the Supreme Lord as Purushottama, Supreme Person, which means that he was putting these questions not simply to a friend, but to the Supreme Person, knowing him to be the supreme authority able to give definitive answers. Om Gyana Timarandasya Kananjana Salakaya Chaksur Umilitamyena Tashmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupakaramayam Daranti Swamparamteham Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Kamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavam Sha Shri Rupa Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Tam Sajivam Sarvaitam Savadutam Purjana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitamsha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindho Dina Bandho Jagapate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurange Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Visavanu Sate Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Panchakalpa Dhruvisha Kripa Sindho Vyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gauda Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So Arjuna is very mercifully inquiring from the Lord about these fundamental principles. And as Srila Prabhupada says, the Lord will explain them in order, starting with Brahman, then karma, then devotional service and the yoga principles, then ultimately just devotional service in its pure form. So we hear these stages of God realization repeated often: Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. And it's really important that we Gornitai Ki Jai. We continue to observe the Lord in these different different manifestations. Obviously, we know Bhagavan to be the supreme goal, and because we have knowledge of Bhagavan, we should start with Krishna as a person. So that's the mercy that we have being initiated into this bhakti yoga practice through His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada and his foremost disciples, like His Holiness Dhanavir Goswami Maharaj. So we're entering into the confidential knowledge. Rajavijja Rajaguyam Bhavitram Itam Uttamam Adyaksha Bhagadarm Dharmyam Susukam Kartam Savyayam. Krishna is telling Arjuna in the next chapter that this is the most secret of all secrets, the king of all knowledge. And it starts by hearing about Bhagavan. One can have the direct perception of the self. Once experienced, one lives joyfully, performs their activities joyfully. So that's the secret of all secrets. And to have Bhagavan, not just Bhagavan, Sri Krishna, but Radha Krishna, and what to speak of the mercy of Radha Krishna as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Nityananda Prabhu, we are the most fortunate souls. So we are really trying to go deeper and see Krishna in his different energies, even as Paramatma and Brahman. So Arjuna is asking about Brahman. It's often referred to as the individual soul, as Prabhupada mentions. Brahman is also known as the effulgence of the Lord, the impersonal Brahman. So there's a distinction as the Brahman as the individual soul and Brahman as the effulgence, which Krishna will talk about. And even the word Atma has a dual meaning sometimes, because Atma can refer to the soul, as Prabhupada mentions. But Atma also refers to the body, soul, and mind. So he says, according to the Vedic dictionary, it can include those features. So, but Arjuna will specifically ask about the transcendental self, the eternal spirit soul, and this, to me, is our eternal kind of truth that we meditate. I used to say this on books a lot. We meditate to perceive reality. We should always be meditating. These karmis, they make a sport of meditation. They use it to relieve themselves from their thoughts. But actually, devotees are meditating all the time to perceive Bhagavan or to perceive reality through Paramatma or Brahman. So we should be constantly thinking like that. And that's what Arjuna is being trained to do, to fight, to overcome lust, to control the senses. And in Krishna consciousness, this is joyfully performed because we have so much utility. Srila Prabhupada says, utility is the principle. So we have so many utility to conquer the senses, spiritualize our senses, overcome the mind. It starts with hearing and chanting, associating with devotees, hearing Bhagavatam, hearing Srimad Bhagavad Gita, devotional service. We have so much utility, even being absorbed in kirtan and tasting prasad. So these are all forms of meditation, and essentially they are have to be utilized. And by doing so, we have so many ways to stimulate the mind and Krishna consciousness, to conquer the mind. It's like a rich father giving their child like all the things that are required for their success. A nice place to live, accommodations, a nice car, like everything in the material world. And you can imagine, like, to have that loving kind of caretaker say, "Here, I'm giving you everything." We have this mercy, so to speak, to be so close, to be fortunate souls. I'll keep using that word because I'm reading Fortunate Souls by His Holiness Nanavi Goswami Maharaj, to come in contact and to try to take advantage of this. So it's really, like he says, utility is the principle. It's one of the four things. So this this meditation on the self and Brahman is, or Atma, sorry. So we use the word Atma often to describe the self, the Jiva soul. And Brahman is the all-pervasive effulgence of the Lord. But the individual soul is also referred to as Brahman. So that's what's unique about Bhakti Yoga, is that we're being instructed on being persons in relationship with Krishna. Other schools, like the Shankacharya, a lot of the sannyasis or renunciates in India, they follow more the Shankya, study Shankya philosophy and try to understand the soul by delineating through the material elements, ultimately leading to consciousness. Well, we're being fast forwarded through all of that. I mean, if you try to study Shankya and the Bhagavad Gita as it is, Srila Prabhupada ultimately summarizes it in 2 purports. And he just wants to get us back on to our relationship with Krishna. So they're empowering us to be persons, to be personal, to have our individual self, to be a fully realized person, to experience love, to experience our eternal service to Krishna. I mean, this is like incredible, And so our soul, we have knowledge. Like there are times in, His Grace Magadari Prabhu was saying this morning that part of Krishna Lila was that he wanted this world to become progenited. So Lord Shiva descended as Adi Shankaracharya to hide the confidential secrets of the Vedas. There's a famous line that the Shankarites say, Aham Brahmasmi, which means I am Brahman, but they take it as like, we are one with God, God being Brahman. So it's a trick. And for millennia, that was the Leela that Vishnu in the West wanted progeny. So these these religions in the West, they are under the influence of that preaching. They don't have the access to Bhagavan, the form, the name, the quality, the pastimes. So that's why our fortune is, in addition to the fortune that we have, we're being guided on how to share this knowledge with those that are ripe fruits. So, to realize that Brahman also constitutes the individual self is when we can really start to develop ras, relationship. So now one has to understand the self and in relationship with consciousness. You see, so in the beginning of Bhagavad Gita as it is, the 2nd chapter, Srila Prabhupada starts to reveal the definitive answer to the age-old question of what is consciousness. And one can construct a very organized and succinct definition given by our Acharya, who's following in the footsteps of the previous Acharyas. And he says that consciousness is the symptom of the soul, of the self, you see. And the analogy that's used is first given by Krishna, which I really love this verse and meditate on it very often. And Krishna says at the end of chapter 13, which I'll read to you guys because it's such a beautiful verse. To delineate consciousness and the self, he says, hmm, you know which verse? Does anyone know which verse I'm talking about? Uh, um, maybe you can look it up on your phone. It starts with as the sun alone. Yeah. Oh, yeah, I found it. It's text 34, chapter 13. So it's the second to last verse in chapter 13. Yatha prakasayat sayati eka krishnam lokam imam ravihi setram setri tatha krishnam prakasayati bharata. So this is where the self is explained in a very poetic and visual way. Translation, Krishna says, O son of Bharat, as the sun alone illuminates all this universe, so does the living entity, one within the body, illuminate the entire body by consciousness. So Prabhupada says in this purport that the sun is situated in one place, but from that place, the entire universe is illuminated by the sunlight. So similarly, he says the spirit soul, although situated in the heart of this body, is illuminating the whole body by consciousness. Thus, consciousness is the proof of the presence of the soul. So this is very important because oftentimes we hanker because we don't perceive the self from within. Essentially, you could make the same case throughout our day. We don't perceive the sun is there, but we know it exists through its energy, through sunlight. So even on a cloudy day, one can look up in the sky and not see the sun, but we know that it exists. So similarly, we should, even if we can't perceive the sun directly, we should always think that the sun is there and our consciousness is derived from the sun, is a symptom of the soul. Just by having that, we internalize, we can become conscious and in that way be guided by the Paramatma. So that's the goal, is that we know that the mind is it's our innermost sense. It's the reins to the senses, as given in the analogy we read before in the Bhagavad Gita. So one should learn how to place the mind within the self. And if one can't directly perceive the source of consciousness, one can still be conscious, right? I really like this analogy that that oftentimes the consciousness and the self are spoken as like non-different. So like if there was sunlight in this room, someone can point out that the sun is in the room, right? We know that actually the sun is far away in a distant place, but by its energy, it has entered the room. So so that helps us to understand the distinction of the soul and our consciousness. So if people ask, what is consciousness? We should have a very clear response and to that question, because that's what we're trying to get people to. They say consciousness is the missing link, right? So we can, if they can accept that consciousness is not just a theory, then they can get closer to understanding about the self, that they're individual, that their consciousness forms their identity, that it's distinct from matter, that this is a really nice analogy. I believe I heard it in a lecture once, and I don't hear that many devotees use this analogy, but I really like it. So when I'm on books sometimes, and I tell them about consciousness, and they don't seem to quite understand, I say, okay, you have a nice jacket. Why does your jacket have arms? And then they think about it and they say, because I have arms. And I go, right. So your material body, you that you just said, the Atma, has arms. Okay, so why do you have arms? And so the response to that is our consciousness. We have limbs. The Atma has arms, limbs, right? So we can peel back the layers if they can accept that that they are too a person. It's just that in this material body, they're a temporary person, but their spiritual identity remains even after death. Then that's a very powerful preaching technique, because for us, we're being basically we're being it's really costless mercy, because Lord Krishna wants to increase the Sankirtan movement. So he's basically waking us up as spirit souls and telling us right away, I love you. You're a person. Just be a person, and just like go. And once we're seen as a person, once we chant the holy name even one time, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, I consider them a Vaishnava. You see, this is like fanatical mercy that we can't comprehend. So all we can do is try to comprehend by following the instruction of going out and saying, hey, you're a person, that like, despite you having a material body, you remain a person. You have arms. Your consciousness is a being, I mean, it's really radical, but it's kind of like the mood, and if they can take a book and they give something because they feel inspired, then they're definitely going to be a person, in their next life, right? Even if they just touch the book. So it's really amazing, the mercy we're being given. It's really amazing, the shelter we're being given here at RBC through His Holiness Dhanavir Goswami Maharaj. And so I guess I just feel very grateful today. I mentioned that a few times. Do you guys have any thoughts? Yeah. You can use this one.
You said something about how we have limbs like like behind this body. So I don't understand. Like like the consciousness is a symptom of the person, the soul, and that person, that soul is like emanating this consciousness. That person, that soul is it like a human, or how am I supposed to understand? Like, I understand. Like I'm like a person, but like, do I have like 5 fingers as that person? Do I have a
Hare Krishna. Yeah. So this is a radical like contribution by the our acharyas. Is they're basically ready to see anyone who comes to Krishna consciousness as a spiritual being. You know, like that wasn't the case over 500 years ago before Lord Krishna incarnated again as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, or descended, you could say. So it's if you really like study the history of knowledge coming through the Vedas up until present day, from His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada mentions that there's 4 great acharyas in India that are contemporaries from 2,700 years ago. Buddha came first, Adi Shankacharya, then Ramanujacharya, then Madhvacharya, who we follow, right? So they were contemporaries, and they established essentially the spiritual paths, and each contributed something to the Siddhanta, or the conclusion of the Vedas. So then, if you come through to more modern day, 500 years ago, we're basically being like, the alarm bells are just like, ringing like, hey, Krishna wants everyone, every town and village, for people to chant the holy names in this golden age of Kali Yuga. So like people that were just like maybe an animal in a previous life, or like conditioned sleeping souls, they used to have to like perform austerities for hundreds of lifetimes, just to guarantee that they could become like, like an eternal person, a conscious person that has like transcendental senses, or that looks like Krishna, that has features like Krishna. But now Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is like, just say the holy name one time, and I see you as like a person, a Vaishnava. I mean, it's like, it's inconceivable, right? So yes, your consciousness forms a person. So the soul is delineated as sometimes the spiritual spark, which is atomic, can fit even in an atom. But in this human life, your soul has a human body. Before Krishna consciousness, you were not conscious that you were a spirit soul, that you could manifest yourself as a spiritual being. But by the mercy of the spiritual master, who said, chant Hare Krishna, offer me love, pay homage unto me and Krishna, that person now sees you as a person. And by virtue of that, you're a spiritual person. You see what I'm saying? It's like, even the glance of Mahavishnu, it creates activity for the entire Mahatava, and that's how creation begins. So now Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and the pure devotee are just like, they're glancing over us, and we're being engaged in Krishna consciousness. I mean, it's a revolution. It's just a hyper revolution, So we should meditate on these instructions, right? That, like, in this purport, it says the Atma often refers to the soul, body, senses, mind. Well, now your soul, which Srila Prabhupada says emanates consciousness, informs, he also says that our consciousness is limited to this body, right? So I'm going to use logic here, okay? So if I have an itch on my right ear, can you which I'm perceiving. Can you perceive it? No. So that delineates that there's within consciousness, which is everything, all pervading, there's individuality. And so he says that our consciousness, the individual consciousness, is limited to this body, right? So your goal is to recognize your full self as a spirit soul, which is non-different, or like the analogy with the sunlight, emanating consciousness, forming your identity, right? So we don't want to disconnect the two. The soul fills the body with consciousness, right? But that soul can still even fit within a blade of grass, right? So it's minute. But by having the fortune of being in a human body, now we're going, oh my God, this is Krishna consciousness. I'm a person, and this arrangement by the Lord through Lord Brahma to have earth be the sort of, in the Bhagavad Gita, the battlefield where people can reach the highest liberation. Antakale chamameva sameyuta. In verse 5, he says, then Krishna proceeds to say, Antakale chamameva samanam mukva kalevaram yaprayati samabhavam yati nasti atrasamsaya. Right? And whoever at the time of death quits his body, remembering me alone, at once attains my nature. Of this there is no doubt. My nature, meaning an eternal person, situated in knowledge and bliss, Satchit Ananda, right? So that's where we're at, and our goal is to just, like we said, utilize what we're given, and by proceeding in that way, we can develop our eternal relationship with Krishna through devotional service. Is that helpful? Okay. Any other questions or comments? This verse, text 5 in the 8th chapter, is also a verse that Srila Prabhupada used a lot in his preaching. So I suggest, if you guys have time, you can go back and read the purports. If you're an A+ student, you read all 11 purports. But if you want to read this verse and try to meditate on text 5, it's a very popular verse. It's one of the required slokas to memorize in Bhakti Shastri whenever you do that. So yeah. Okay. Actually, we'll just read the purport together, okay? So I'll read the verse again. And whoever at the time of death quits his body, remembering me alone, at once attains my nature. Of this there is no doubt. Purport. In this verse, the importance of Krishna consciousness is stressed. Anyone who quits his body in Krishna consciousness is at once transferred to the transcendental abode of the Supreme Lord. The words smaran, remembering, is important. Remembrance of Krishna is not possible for the impure soul who has not practiced Krishna consciousness in devotional service. To remember Krishna, one should chant the Maha Mantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, incessantly, following in the footsteps of Lord Chaitanya, being more tolerant than the tree, humbler than the grass, and offering all respect to others without requiring respect in return. In such a way, one will be able to depart from the body, successfully remembering Krishna, and so attain the supreme goal. So this purport is very, very, very powerful, yes. Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki.
About this, if I, eternal person, consciousness, they also see